Hey, you're tuned in to Tech Talk with VLink, an award-winning podcast brought to you by VLink Inc. In each episode, host Tracy Gardner sits down and talks trending tech with global business and tech executives.
Welcome to Tech Talk with VLink, where we explore the intersection of technology, cybersecurity, and business strategy. I'm Tracy Gardner, and today we're diving into a crucial and timely topic, AI governance. We are honored to have Phani Dasari, the Chief Information Security Officer of HGS Global Solutions, with us today. Phani is CISO at Hajuja Global Solutions with an impressive career spanning over 18 years. A seasoned security executive, Phani's expertise encompasses a diverse spectrum of domains, including governance, risk, compliance, client security management, data privacy, regulatory compliance, and much more. Recognized for his adept communication skills, Phani has consistently gained client trust and driven business alignment for security initiatives. HGS Global Solutions is a major player in the IT world, working on solutions that power global industries. Phani has a front row seat to the challenges of AI in enterprise environments. And Phani, thanks for joining us today. I imagine that's a lot to have that front row seat. I mean, artificial intelligence is transforming industries, but with great power comes great responsibility.
True. Thank you, Tracy. Greatly appreciate having me on the show, and appreciate the generous intro as well. So yeah, coming to the point, yes, AI is not a fad. AI is not the new shiny tool. AI is going to be here in our lifetime and beyond. So it's going
Yeah,
to
for
stay.
sure.
So we should all be
Absolutely.
prepared for that,
We should
right?
be.
So
I think
yeah.
it's changing things for the better, but so many people fear it. And as the CISO of HGS, what are you kind of focusing on, and what should companies be focusing on right now?
So the first things first, right? Whenever we have new emerging technologies, there would be new risks that we are not familiar with will come into the picture, right? So one of the ways of dealing with that is to at least to start with have a policy in place. What do you want to do, right? Have some procedures built in, pick a framework, and then follow that framework to make sure that at least you have some control over what's going on.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
the first and foremost thing that you could do without spending a ton of money is build a governance structure. And that's you can do that with your existing resources, and you don't need much more, right? So at least I would say start with these things to start the AI security and privacy journey.
Yeah, you're a CIO's best friend. You don't have to spend a lot of money. Just
Yeah.
put that governance structure. I mean, I think we're always all going to the CIO, more money, we need more
Yeah,
money.
yeah,
But,
yeah.
how does this differ from traditional governance in tech? And what are the key pillars, do you think?
So, from a structure standpoint, I should say that it should not differ
Mhm.
because you're not existing in vacuum. You're part of the enterprise. So I would say that from a structure standpoint, you still be in the structure, meaning from a strategic standpoint, from a tactical standpoint, and from an operational standpoint. At a strategic standpoint, create an enterprise AI committee, which is on par with your audit committees and your board of directors and all of that, right? At that
Mhm.
level. Then you drop one level, come to your tactical. And this is where you have your AI steering committee, which is to draw a
Oh,
parallel, I would say, your change management board, right? For better
gotcha.
understanding. And
Hmm.
then one more level you drop and you come to operational level, which is where you actually do the work. You do the assessment, do the scope analysis, do the testing, so on and so forth. This is the AI COE, Center of Excellence, right? And
Yeah.
this is where you operationalize all of that. So from a structure standpoint, we are not deviating, but we're introducing new entrants into each of these structures.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then we're talking about the pillars, right? Security, privacy, compliance. That's not going to change. It's there. It's not new. However, there are new entrants to this. One is fairness and bias detection,
Yeah. That's
explainability,
important.
explainability and justifiability,
Hmm.
accountability, responsibility, transparency, and trustworthiness. So I'll pick on few of them, right?
Okay.
Security, privacy, compliance, straightforward, everybody understands.
Hmm.
When it comes to fairness and bias detection, right?
Yeah.
You have to understand that you are making decisions for human beings, be it mortgages, be it immigration, be it your educational decisions, be it employment decisions. These impact human beings directly. So you want to make sure that it is fair and there is no bias built into the system. You understand AI is a system that you feed in information and it spits out outputs, right?
Hmm.
That's pretty much it does. It has some autonomy built in, but that's pretty much the overall structure is. If you feed in bias into it, it will output bias. There are no technologies that can identify that. You would see in the marketplace, big
Yeah.
companies are saying that we can detect bias. What they mean is they can detect drift, a model
Oh,
drift, meaning, 2 plus 2 equals to 4.1, they can identify that, right?
right.
So that is a drift that, okay, your input is not matching with your output. So there is something that is wrong, right? That much, pretty much what they can do. If I introduce bias into 2 plus 2 itself, then the output would be, commensurate with the input. So it cannot detect. So what you can
Mm.
actually do here is the governance structures that you're building in will identify these biases. You have to make sure that you have carefully looked at everything from the inception of the idea itself. And
Hmm.
that's where your governance structures come into play, right? Then
Yeah.
comes your explainability, transparency, and justifiability. These are three very important things.
Hmm.
If you cannot tell what your model is doing and why it is doing, that's where the transparency comes into play. You cannot explain if there is no transparency into your system, how it is functioning. If you can't explain, you can't justify. So
Hmm.
these three things go together, right? And then comes the trustworthiness. You're putting these products into the marketplace. Make sure that there is trust built into that. And when I'm using it, make it clear for the user that it is AI. Don't pretend it to be otherwise.
Yeah. That's it. That's it. Very important. I think, and that's what I think people start not trusting. I mean, we could spend 30 minutes on just trust and transparency and
Yeah,
bias,
yes,
talking.
absolutely.
So we surely could. And AI systems can have significant benefits, Fanny, that, but they also come with those risks, and some of them you've talked about. From your perspective as a CISO, what do you think the biggest risk is for companies that are deploying it at scale?
So there are multiple risks at this time, right? There is design risk, there is data risk, there is model risk, there is
Yeah.
operational risk, right? So from a design risk, because see, whatever we are building today, most of the organizations, including mine, we are building on existing open market LLMs. There is an underlying LLM and you build models on top of it, right?
Hmm.
So you want to make sure that the interactions between these models is accounted for and you know what's going on. You have to have visibility into it. You have to have proper requirements gathering. You have to have proper testing and validation. That's very important from a design
Oh,
risk
yeah.
standpoint. From a data risk standpoint, you want to make sure that you have quality data because garbage in, garbage out. If you have biases built into the data input, you will have biased outputs. There is no surprise there, right? Then you want to make sure that it's fit for use,
Hmm.
right? Do you have quality data? Is it fit for use? Is the other question that you have to ask yourself. Then you want to make sure that your data is not built in with bias. Then you look at the privacy of it. Am I putting individuals, organizations, and anybody else's information at risk, right? From a privacy standpoint,
Yeah,
you want to make
right.
sure that that
Absolutely.
happens.
Hmm. Hmm.
Then you want to make sure that the compliance aspects of it from the data standpoint. You want to make sure that you're not violating any compliance rules, right? Then comes the model risk. This is the new risk that we're talking about. You want to make sure that the models are built on quality data. You exactly know what's going on with the model. This is where the transparency, explainability, justifiability things come in play. And from an operational risk standpoint, you want to make sure that you have adequate controls in place. And then you have the net new risks, which we call, model risk, data poisoning, model
Yeah.
inference, model evasion, model inversion, and all of these things, right? This is where you have to take care of those things. So this is the buckets, the broader buckets I put into design risk, data risk, model risk, and operational risk.
Yeah, it been very important, as you said, and I think at the we've talked about it at the corporate level, right? Putting those compliances into place. But what about regulations on AI? I mean, it's generally unregulated in the U.S. We know in Europe the frameworks like the EU AI Act have been put in place, but how do you see the regulatory landscape evolving here in the U.S. and globally?
You and me both remember GDPR, right? So EU AI Act is GDPR on steroids.
Yeah.
That's how we see it. The fines for GDPR are 4% of your global revenues, whereas the EU AI Act has 7% of your global revenues as fines, right? That's one part of it,
Mm-hmm.
right? The other part of it, the one trend that is very different from GDPR is, for the first time, everybody has consensus on the definition of AI,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is a machine-based system with some autonomy, which
Mm-hmm.
takes an input and produces an output. They brought it down to that simple of a definition. It is not product, it is product agnostic, it is tech agnostic, it is geography
Mm-hmm.
agnostic, and all of that, right? If you look at adoption of GDPR, because I always draw comparison with that, because that was the one big thing that we all got impacted with, positively, by the way. So you want to make sure that the adoption of GDPR, when you compare across the globe, it first started with the EU, then we in the States in the Western Hemisphere, then it went to the Asia
Mm-hmm.
Pacific and all of that. Even today, in 2018 into 2024, end of 2024, by the way, India is adopting it now. So it has took like 6 years for a lot of countries to adopt.
Yeah.
That is not going to be true with EUA Act. Everybody is working at it at the same time. Everybody has consensus on the definition of it. We don't have a regulation at this point, but we do have NIST AI guidelines, and
Mm-hmm.
there is an executive order from the president, and same in the UK, and India is working on it. Brazil is working on it. South Korea is working on it, right? So it's gonna hit us pretty quick. And as
Yeah,
organizations, we have to be prepared for it. Otherwise,
we
we'll be
do.
running, we will be running around like headless chickens, right? So,
Right.
this is very important. This regulation is coming. It's going to hit us hard. And they're going to make sure that, it grabs the headlines. They're going to find some organizations real, very heavy, heavy fines.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to happen. That always happens. And if you remember early days of GDPR, you would see, Ireland fining Google, somebody fining Microsoft, Facebook, et cetera, like in millions of dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that will happen again, right? So
Good.
if you're a smaller organization, if you get impacted by these kind of things, you will be out of business.
Hit them in their
So
pocketbook, hit
yeah,
them where it
yeah,
hurts.
and you better brace up, right? And
Mm-hmm.
then these are the minimum things that you could do, right? Policies, procedures, frameworks, governance structures. At least have them in play. That way, you're ready, when these regulations become effective.
Yeah. Well, we know, HGS Global Systems operates on a massive international
Yeah.
scale. I mean, you guys are huge. What does AI governance kind of look like at such a large organization like yours? And you've kind of touched on it, but just touch on it, briefly.
Yeah, the Hindustan Global Solutions (HGS) is a digital CX and IT technology and services company, right? So we have built a lot of AI tech already
Mm-hmm.
that is actually bringing us revenues. We're building these solutions for our clients. So this is front and center for us as an organization in our digital journey. So from a support from the XCOM system, I have all of it,
Yeah.
which is rare for security professionals to say. But in our case, it is true, right? Because we are producing these solutions, AI solutions, and then selling them. So they are productized and in the
Yeah.
market.
Right.
So protecting them is paramount for us, right? Otherwise we will be in deep, deep trouble,
Mm-hmm.
right? And also it's the right thing to do, right? And irrespective of whether the fines will be there or not, is the right thing to do for the clientele, right? So we have the first things I've done is, as soon as the Chat GPT came into light,
Yes.
we immediately, 2 years back, we immediately started building policies and procedures around it. Then the EUA Act came into light, and then we started having that as the highest common denominator. And then we built a full governance structure, right? And this is where, there is a lot of back and forth who owns the risk, because there is no chief AI officer at any organization, right? There are chief
Kind
data
of falls on
officers.
you. Kind of falls on you, sort of.
Yeah, it falls on a lot of us, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that was a big discussion at where does he fall, right? Then we said it's not with one person. It is with a group of people, right?
Yeah.
Whoever is impacted by it, they all should be part of that committee. And that's where, I as a CISO, I'm there. We have a chief privacy officer on that committee. We have a CTO on the committee. We have a chief operating officer from operations standpoint was on the committee. And we have, a CRO, chief risk officer on that committee. And we also have an AI lead to get their perspective on these things so that we don't want to stifle the innovation. At the same time, we don't want to, and by the way, the CPO itself is our general counsel. So we get two in one package there. So, so this is the committee that we have built, right?
That's
and
nice.
from all stakeholder standpoint, and we have built gates for any AI solution to go live. It's from an idea stage to the output and the product into the market. We have built different gates, and then we have built different mechanisms to make sure that there is no bias built in, and the privacy is taken care of, the ethics is taken care of, and we are able to explain the models that we are building, and of course, in the end of the day, accountability and responsibility lies on the organization, even if you're not building it, by the way. You could simply say, oh, we just bought it from outside and we're doing it. It doesn't matter. End of the day, it's your company that is putting it out. It's your responsibility. A quick example for that would be Canadian Airlines. They have put out a chatbot that was, spitting nonsense, and people interacted with it, and then, said they're gonna give you this money back, that money back. When they went to the customer service, and they said, that's not true. The system is hallucinating. It's not our policy to do that, right? Then they went to the court, and the court sided with the customers,
Yeah.
right? And they said, end of the day, you put it out, it's your responsibility. Even if it is producing, garbage responses, it's your responsibility. So you can't, say that we not built it, it's not a responsibility. You build it, you don't build it, doesn't matter. It's still your responsibility, right? So we are making sure that, we have all the mechanisms, and then the another most important thing that organizations have to understand is that have visibility into your AI pipelines.
Yeah.
You will run into the shadow AI problem like you used to run into shadow AI problem. Sorry, shadow IT problem.
IT.
Yeah. So you ought to make sure that you have visibility as well.
Absolutely. Well, you've already answered the next question. I was going to say, how do you, collaborate with other leaders like CIO, CTO? So you've kind of answered that. I mean, in summing everything up, I think that, this is the last question I'd like to ask is, how do you ensure governance structures keep pace with the rapid environment? Because I mean, AI is evolving at such a rapid pace, we can barely keep up with it. So how do you ensure that governance structures keep up?
So, as I said, you have to have these strategic, tactical, and operational governance structures built in, and then you have these assigned roles, your AI COE and AI steering committee and all of that. But this is where you also have to take the help of technology. There are many players today, and startups that we work with as well, that help you with this journey, right? How do I know in this hyper innovation, and most of the AI tools to begin with are free. There are freemium tools, there are open source tools, and all of that come into your organization. People are working on it, building models and all of that, right? How do you know? How do you keep up, right? So you have to make sure that you have technologies that can identify your AI pipelines in your environment. That's number one.
Absolutely.
And number two, you should be able to tell your bill of materials, what it is and who they are and all of that, right? And the third is you want to make sure that you have technology that can identify your model vulnerabilities. You should be able to scan and identify them, right? It should also be able to, give you at least a compliance score with respect to EUA Act as a highest common denominator. You should be able to do that, right? Once you do all of these things, and again, you understand who are your partners, who are your vendors, and then have the same visibility into their ecosystem as well. because
Gotcha.
you're building on top of it, on top of LLMs, and then you're building, getting pipelines from elsewhere. You want to make sure that all of those people are taken into consideration as well. And when I say partners, with your existing partners, with your existing vendors, they're also making those AI journeys, just like we are, right? But your existing paperwork doesn't reflect that. If
Yeah.
you can do it, if you have the leverage to do that, do it immediately to change the paperwork, introduce an AI security addendum. If you don't have that leverage,
Gotcha.
wait for the renewal and then introduce this paperwork there and make sure that your third-party risk assessments include an AI module as well when you go and then and assess your vendors. So that way, you know that your entire ecosystem with respect to AI, you have visibility to it and you have control over those things.
Protected, yeah. Well, Fanny, you've been great. Such an insightful conversation on AI governance. This is clearly an area which will continue to grow, in importance as AI becomes more and more embedded in how we do business in our everyday lives. Thanks so
Absolutely.
much for being here. You were
Thank
great.
you. Thank you, Tracy. Greatly appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. And for our listeners, stay tuned for more episodes where we dive deeper into how technology and strategies are shaping our future. Thanks for joining us. Until next time, stay secure and stay informed.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Tech Talk with VLink by VLink Inc., headquartered in Connecticut. We'll see you in the next one.